Stocks closed mixed on Wall Street ahead of the FOMC meet set to get underway later today. The Dow Jones rises over 0.5% to close at a record high. The S&P 500 also gains, but the tech-heavy Nasdaq slips with losses of about 0.5%. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific are trading mixed following a mixed handover from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty, however, is suggesting a positive start for the Indian markets. Crude prices rise, Brent trading above $72 a barrel now over fears of Hurricane Francine hitting production in the Gulf of Mexico. Gold, though, continues to trade near record levels on prospects of big rate cuts by the US Federal Reserve. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaraman responds to the controversy surrounding SEBI chief Madhavi Puri BoJ, says the SEBI chief and her husband have responded to quite a few questions and those facts must be taken on board. She also says that there is nothing wrong in F&O investment but emphasizes on being trusting authentic information. She also remains bullish on growth in the coming quarters. And in confirmation of a CNBC TV 18 news break, Samvardhana Motherson has launched a QIP to raise nearly 6,400 crore rupees with a dilution of close to 5% of its equity. It will also raise 2,250 crore rupees via compulsorily convertible debentures. SpiceJet has also launched a QIP to raise up to 3,000 crore rupees, entailing an equity dilution of up to 38%. Hello, welcome. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18 this Tuesday morning in the Mumbai News Center. I am Hormus Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets are faring. Look at those that are open this morning. And it's a slightly negative start for the Japanese markets. They have opened for trade after a holiday yesterday. The Japanese indices are leading the losses. The Taiwanese index is shut for trading today because of a holiday. But the Hang Seng has opened with a positive bias, trading with close to gains of 0.7%. The South Korean market has also shut today on account of a holiday, as is those markets in mainland China. So it's a mixed picture. The Hang Seng trading with gains but losses coming in on the Nikkei after it resumed trade, losses with over 1%. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that will tell you how the Indian markets are likely to open. There's some bit of an error there is what the implied open is suggesting, but on last check the implied open was suggesting a slightly positive start for our own markets in that 45 to 50 point range. After a slight bit of underperformance there, you can see almost 50 points higher is what the implied open is suggesting. But moving on to the Wall Street now, and there was a mixed session there as well. The S&P 500 saw some marginal gains yesterday. Investors are now awaiting the highly anticipated central bank policy decision, while the Dow Jones was an outperformer, closing at a record high. Now, a decline in chip stocks and AI-related names led to a dip in the Nasdaq, which closed around 0.5% lower. The losses were also led by Apple, which closed almost 3% lower after analysts pointed out to lower demand for pre-orders of the iPhone 16. Other tech stocks like Nvidia, Broadcom and Marvell Technology also suffered losses. Now, the two-day Fed meeting begins tonight and the central bank is widely anticipated to begin cutting rates for the first time since March of 2020. Now, former Federal Reserve Vice Chair Roger Ferguson says that the Fed has room to move 50 basis points, but higher rate cuts could form an alternate narrative of a tough economy. Listen in.
There is also, though, something that worries me a little bit in that narrative, the notion that maybe the economy is a little weaker than it appears, and this is an insurance policy. Last time we talked, there was some discussion that you and I had about, well, gee, is the economy actually weaker than it appears? I fear that if they move 50 basis points, the notion that they know something that we don't know, as they say, i.e. the economy is weaker than we think, will start to take hold, and I think that's not an accurate narrative. I would imagine that they would prefer to see the initial move be sort of neutral to slightly positive in the market. And right now, I think they're set up, as you just articulated very well, for whatever decision they make, there'll be someone disappointed in the market and the possibility of a sell-off. So, I don't think this 50-50 odds for either 25 or 50 is a net positive. It gives them room to move 50 if they want to, but then it creates a communication challenge to explain why that 50 move was not a sign of increased concern.
Now, the professor of economics at Princeton University and the former Fed vice chairman Alan Blinder also thinks that a 50 basis point rate cut would be apt.
If it was completely up to me and I was just choosing, I would go 50. I'm more worried, a little bit more worried about the downside risk than the upside risk, but it's a very close call. And the point is, an important point is, I don't believe everybody on the Federal Open Market Committee thinks what I just said. I think you still have some hawkish sentiment on the committee, and that could drive Jay Powell to think 25 basis points is the way to hold the committee together, hopefully without dissent at all. The pros that surrounds either the 25 or the 50. You could have a 25 that sounds aggressive about future cuts, or you could have a 50 that sounds a lot more passive about future cuts. And frankly, it's not so clear which of those two is the more expansionary policy. So I think the pros in this case matter much more than the number of basis points, assuming it's either 25 or 50, and the Fed doesn't have some big surprise in store for us, which I certainly don't think.
That's all we have on the global market action, but how will all of these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have our research team joining in with how the trade setup looks like, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the setup on the FNO side as well. First off, Vamakshi joins in to get us all the market cues you need to watch out for today. Vamakshi, good morning. What's the setup looking like?
Well, good morning, Hormaz. It was another day, another record high for all the indices. Nifty, Sensex and Midcap, all three indices hit a record high on an intraday basis. The Midcap post a record close for the second straight session. It was the metal stocks and the financials that pushed the Nifty higher, while on the other hand, the FMCG index dragged Nifty. GSW Steel, Hindalco were some of the top gainers as far as Nifty is concerned. But this intraday record high could not be sustained. Nifty ended the day nearly 60 points lower as compared to the day's high. Sensex for the same was down nearly 200 points, mid-cap 150 and small cap nearly 95 basis points, closed below the highs. The market breadth, however, were in favor of the advances. On the other hand, the European markets closed lower ahead of multiple rate decisions. The stock 600, the DAX as well as the CAC declined anywhere between 0.2 to 0.4%. The US markets, on the other hand, had a mixed trading session. Dow Jones closed at a record high, but it was the Nasdaq that declined by nearly 0.5%. As far as the trading session today is concerned, lots of cues to watch out for, but the most important one being India's WPI data as well as the FOMC two-day meeting, which begins today. Of course, the interest rate decision is expected to be declared on September 18th. But apart from that, lots of stocks to watch out for as well. Easy Trip Planners board meeting will be held for considering the proposal for multiple acquisitions, and P.N. Gadgil Jewelers, that's a new listing, new kid on the block, so watch out for that one as well. So given all of these cues, we will be watching out for the markets today. As of now, the GIFT Nifty is indicating for a positive start.
Positive start indeed. We'll see if that gains hold on as well. Vamakshi, thanks a lot for that. Over to Winnie now, who's listed out the stocks to watch out for. Winnie, good morning. What's on your list?
Good morning, and firstly, I'll start with FirstSource Solutions. Now, they have announced a strategic collaboration with Microsoft. They will be delivering some advanced technology transformation services to the clients worldwide. It's an interesting one for FirstSource Solutions. SpiceJet, launch of its QIP has happened. They will be raising funds via QIP. So its overall issue size is 3,000 crores. On this, green shoe option is of 1,500 crores as well. So 1,500 crore is going to be the base issue. Indicative price is 61 rupees per equity share. Moving on, Samvardhana Motherson also has launched its QIP to raise funds. The floor price for that is 188.85 rupees per equity share. Total issue size for Samvardhana Motherson is 6,398 crore rupees. TVS Motors, keeping an eye on that one, they have launched the TVS Apache RR 310, which is crafted for record-breaking race machines, and they've launched it in the leading technology segment. So interesting to watch out for this one. Vedanta clarified that, in terms of the disruptions that were caused by some of the water issues, yes, the plant, there is no current disruption in terms of operation. The alumina refinery has continued to operate with the compliance which is required in terms of regulatory requirement. So no issues on that front. And Reliance Infrastructure, keep an eye on that one. The board will be meeting on 19th of September to consider fundraising plans.
Interesting list there, Winnie. Thanks a lot for joining in. And finally, Mangalam joins in with cues from the FNO space. Mangalam, good morning. We couldn't hold on to the record high levels, but I guess it's nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about. We're consolidating at record highs with a positive bias. No real worries because this is ahead of a big event. So if you just take a look at the market setup itself, right? The indices are oscillating in a very narrow range, consolidating with a positive bias just under record high, and the key event will be, of course, the FOMC outcome. We will know, more of that tomorrow after markets, and thereafter the markets will react on Thursday itself. Yesterday, if you look at the range on the Nifty, the low and the high on the Nifty, a rough range of just 110 odd points. That's telling you how indecisive the market is at current levels ahead of a binary event. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive start. Let's see what happens, whether we see that uptick being sold into and consolidate in this range itself. Because if you look at the broader range, apart from yesterday's 100-point range as well, the Nifty is between this 25,000 mark to 25,500 itself. It's the Nifty bank which is extremely crucial. All of last week was an outperformer. Yesterday as well did slightly better, and it's just about 2% away from a fresh record high. So whether that hits a record high or not is the big question. The other thing is the FIIs. Yesterday it's sold about 1,600 crores in the cash market, but the previous 4 trading sessions they've been buying, and if you look at it in September itself, they've returned to buying with about 13,000 crore worth purchase in cash itself. Add to that, they've been increasing their long exposure in index futures as well. If you look at the data from September 11th to yesterday itself, over the last 4 trading sessions, the FIs have increased their net long exposure by over 60,000 contracts. So the table comes up for you on the screen. We have 1.51 lakh contracts on September 11th with a 64% long positioning. That is increased all the way up to 2.13 lakh contracts with a 68% long positioning as well. What does this tell you? That the low on the Nifty has been cemented. 25,400 put writers pretty active. So 25,300 becomes your first leg of support. But on the way up, because the Nifty weekly options expiry is on a Thursday this time around with the FOMC outcome as well, there are a lot of punts being taken at 25,700 calls. 16 rupees a pop. People are going ahead and buying that. 26,000 call as well. 3 rupees is the option on offer. People are taking that. Remember last Thursday, we saw a big move on the expiry day. All these 1-2 rupee options turning all the way up to 100, 200 rupees. So maybe some punt buying taking place out there as well. Today in the second half, we'll have the Nifty financials expiry playing out. So that's in focus. And in terms of stocks, I'm watching out for 3 stocks. We had pointed out yesterday that LIC Housing Finance may enter F&O ban. Add to that, we have JNFC and Birla Soft entering the F&O ban as well. So those will be stocks to watch out for.
Interesting levels highlighted by Magalam there. Thanks a lot for joining in with the F&O setup. There's the financial services expiry, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Time for a short break. Up next, we get you excerpts from Network 18's exclusive conversation with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaraman. Stay tuned to find out what she had to say on a whole host of things, including the equity markets and the allegations against the SEBI chairperson. Welcome back. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaraman has responded to the controversy surrounding SEBI Chief Madhabi Puri Booch for the first time. Speaking at a News 18 India event with Rahul Joshi, she said that the SEBI chief and her husband have been answering the charges made by the Congress party with facts, and those facts must be taken on board. The Congress party has made conflict of interest allegations against the SEBI chief. She has denied all the allegations so far. Listen in to a slice of that conversation.
Finance Minister, Ms. Madhuri Puri Bhuj was one of the rare pedigreed professionals from the private sector who got drafted into the government, into this regulatory role as SEBI chairman. What is your assessment of the situation involving Madhuri Puri Bhuj?
Well, I think quite a few of the allegations are being answered by her and by her husband, I think also. Yes. Both of them together are defending themselves and putting out facts to contradict those which are being alleged by the Congress party. So I think the facts will have to be taken on board.
And are you satisfied with her answers?
Well, I'm not here to judge that.
The Finance Minister also spoke about the IPO and F&O frenzy on Dalal Street. She said that there is nothing wrong in investing in the F&O space, but also added that one must be cautious and trust only authentic information. She also is not worried about the GDP growth slowing in the first quarter and expects an acceleration in the quarters to come.
We'll have to encourage the markets to be robust, no doubt. But particularly when speculative activities are too much, there needs to have a sense of caution in our minds. We need to have it. And we also need to make sure that people with their savings don't go to engage in high fluctuating or high risk ventures. No harm in participating in F&O, or no harm in going and investing in the equity market. But eventually, we need to be using financial information, authentic information, before we take a call. The capital expenditure which was announced, 11 lakh crores, slightly over it, didn't find much of an expenditure happening in the Q1 because every department was probably looking at post-election time. As a result, the large chunk of influence or impact which could have been had because of the public expenditure was muted. And therefore, to that extent, it shows in the Q1 numbers. But subsequently, Q2 and we are in the third quarter, the expenditure will pick up, and that will, I suppose, trigger the little slowing down that you suspect to move faster.
You know, India remains one of the fastest growing economies of the world. Given right now that, you know, there is some soft GDP growth and the inflation is also moderate, do you think there is a case for monetary easing? I'm asking for your view.
Yes, my view being said here will become, Finance Minister expects RBI to bring it down. I don't want to add to that. RBI is doing its full analysis and taking a call. And therefore, I expect them to look at the economy as a whole, both for growth and for inflation.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaraman on a whole host of issues there. Time for a short break. Up next, we get two cues from the commodity space. Stay tuned, back on the other side. Back with us here on Power Breakfast, and Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the updates from the commodity space. Manisha, good morning. Looks like metals are shining ahead of the Fed meet.
Oh, absolutely, yes. You know, the US dollar also has seen a bit of a decline, and this comes in even as all of China data has been on the weaker side. So whether it's about industrial output, retail sales, fixed asset investment, employment, housing, every single data from China has been on the weaker side. But the markets for this week seem to be absolutely ignoring that, shrugging it off. And the weakness in US dollar, expectation that the US Fed perhaps could cut rates more than 25 basis points is what really seems to be supporting. So you have copper, which is trading at an 8-week high, zinc at a 9-week high, aluminum and tin prices are trading at a 3-week highs as well. So very strong moves coming in for the metal prices. Can't say the same about ferrous because steel and iron ore prices have declined, but the base metal price is doing well. It also is a third straight day when you are looking at the crude oil prices continue to gain as well. 73 is back for the Brent crude oil prices, and the markets are looking at further gains onto this one, as nearly 20% of Gulf of Mexico oil production is offline, and the Libya exports also have continued to decline. Various banks and brokerages have continued to cut price outlook going forward, but for the near term, this does look like an opportunity buying that we are seeing in case of crude oil prices. A quick word, Hormuz, on what we have seen the agriculture commodities do, and here as well, it is good gains because of decline in dollar. So Arabica coffee is trading at a 13-year highs, cocoa price is at a 2-week highs, cotton price is trading at a 3-week highs, rubber at a 2021 highs, sunflower oil prices gained 6% overnight. So it does look like that overall commodity as a sector in anticipation of a higher rate cut is looking at strong gains.
Lots of anticipation indeed. Manisha, thanks a lot for that detailed update from the commodity side. Now, in some major political updates, Arvind Kejriwal has decided to tender his resignation as Delhi Chief Minister and said that he will return as Chief Minister only if the people of Delhi vote the Aam Aadmi Party back into power. The AAP MLAs also will meet at Kejriwal's residence today to decide on his successor. Now, this comes just 2 days after he was released from prison on bail. Moving on to some updates from the RG Kar medical case, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, following a meeting with protesting junior doctors, has agreed to 3 of the 5 demands made by them. The Chief Minister has agreed to the removal of the 2 top officials of the Health Department and the Chief of the Kolkata Police, Vineet Goyal. The Police Chief of Kolkata's North Zone will also be removed. The protesters, however, say that they will continue the agitation for the removal of the Health Secretary as well. Let's take a look at how the Asian markets are doing before we call time on the show. It's only the Hang Seng and the Japanese indices that are currently trading. The Hang Seng now has extended gains, is trading with gains of close to 1%. But on the flip side, the Japanese indices have extended their losses. The Nikkei, which was down around 1% when we began the show, is now down 1.5%. So the Asian screen is a mixed picture. The Hang Seng extending gains, the Nikkei on the flip side is extending losses. I'll pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that will give you a clearer picture of how the Indian markets are likely to open. Well, that is seeing some bit of choppiness as well. We started off the show with around 55 points. That implied open now is down to gains of around 40 points for our own markets. But with that, we call time on this edition of Power Breakfast. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call up next to set you up for today's trade.